The Gungjin sword art, a top-tier technique. It nurtures a golden sword chi within the meridians, and when activated it moves swiftly like the wind, possessing powerful killing potential. A top-tier technique. Lu Xian was momentarily lost in a daze. Currently he had mastered 3 techniques: Fireball spell, Spiritual Rain spell, and the recently acquired Earth Attraction. These 3 techniques were all low-level and merely represented a rudimentary application of spiritual energy. However, the Gungjin sword art, even though it was the lowest tier among top-tier techniques, already satisfied Lu Xian. After all, even among mid-level or high-level chi cultivators, not everyone possessed a top-tier technique. He remained in place, gathering his spiritual energy according to the route that appeared in his mind. Then a pale golden stream of about 3 inches in length and finger width surged out from within his body, swiftly flying towards the stone wall and slicing a black thorn into 2 pieces. Lu Xian walked over and picked up a smooth section of the thorn, secretly amazed by the killing power of the pale golden sword chi. Although the black thorn didn't belong to a spiritual plant, it was extremely tough. Lu Xian had conducted an experiment with the fireball spell before, and it took half an incense stick's worth of time to burn it through. Compared to the fireball spell, the Gungjin sword art was much cleaner and had more than twice the killing power. However, it takes too long to execute the sword art right after practicing it, and its power is greatly reduced. With such a powerful technique, I'll have to practice diligently in the future. Of course, if I could acquire additional Gungjin sword art as an experience bar, that would be even better. Lu Xian thought as he looked at the remaining 15 spirit firegrass. He placed the harvested spirit firegrass into a jade box, intending to go out again. Currently he had 9 mature spirit firegrass, 6 of ordinary quality and 3 of good quality. The jade box had limited space and there was no room for additional spiritual plants. To prevent the loss of spiritual energy from the upcoming spirit firegrass, he had to sell these 9 as soon as possible. At the same time, with the spiritual field now vacant and the remaining area of spirit firegrass about to mature, Lu Xian planned to use the acquired spiritual stones to buy some spiritual seeds. If he had enough spiritual stones, he wondered if he could find a low-level defensive formation in the market. The appearance of white light orbs in the courtyard's spiritual field had increased the importance of the field. Lu Xian was afraid that cultivators or monsters might sneak in and harm the spiritual plants, affecting the richness of the white light orbs. He instructed the grass puppet for a few words, asking it to keep an eye on the house, and then left the courtyard with the jade box containing the spirit firegrass. As soon as he stepped out, he coincidentally bumped into Zhang Hong, who had just returned from the market. "Lu, junior brother, where are you going?" Zhang Hong saw Lu Xian's figure from a distance and greeted him with a hearty laugh. "Hello, senior brother Zhang, I plan to go to the market." Lu Xian greeted Zhang Hong. The two chatted for a while, and Lu Xian learned that Zhang Hong had just returned from the market, where he had purchased several protective talismans in preparation for the upcoming cultivation expedition. "Lu, junior brother, are you really not interested in exploring the new secret realm in the wilderness together?" Zhang Hong suddenly changed the topic, still unwilling to give up. "Senior brother Zhang, I appreciate your kindness, but my aspirations lie elsewhere. I just want to be an ordinary and content spiritual plant cultivator." Lu Xian waved his hand, firmly refusing. "Well, I was hoping that we could accompany each other. After spending so much time together, it would have been nice to have someone to rely on," Zhang Hong said with regret. "I wish you a successful journey and a safe return, senior brother Zhang." Lu Xian sincerely blessed him with a clasped fist. The two bid farewell. Lu Xian walked to the market, noticing that there were more cultivators than usual. Defensive talismans had become popular items, and healing pills were in high demand. As soon as they appeared, many cultivators scrambled for them, even if the prices were higher than usual, indicating a shortage of supply. It seems that news of the Wang family's plan to explore the new secret realm has spread throughout the Linyang district. With so many chi cultivators and low to mid-level cultivators wanting a share, I wonder how many will obtain opportunities and how many will become stepping stones for others. Lu Xian sensed the restless atmosphere in the market but remained unaffected, observing quietly. He stayed in the market for 2 to 3/4 of an hour, paying attention to every piece of information around him and occasionally asking the stallholders. Eventually he turned several corners and arrived at a medicine shop called Bai Chao Tang. The owner of the shop was an alchemist who had a significant demand for various alchemical materials. Lu Xian had previously sold the spiritual herbs he cultivated to this shop at a fair price. Entering the shop, a strong medicinal fragrance wafted over. Lu Xian entered a wooden house that was piled with various spiritual herbs of different sizes, and several apprentices were busy handling them. "Little Lu, are you here to sell spirit firegrass again?" An emaciated old man spotted Lu Xian at a glance, glanced at his bulging chest and greeted him. "Yes, elder, some of my spirit firegrass has matured and I've come to sell them to your esteemed shop." The emaciated old man was a relative of the alchemist who managed the shop's miscellaneous affairs. Lu Xian had to deal with him when selling spirit firegrass, so they were somewhat familiar with each other. "How many do you have?" "9. How much is spirit firegrass selling for per plant now?" Lu Xian took out the jade box from his chest and asked. "The price remains the same, 3 low-grade spiritual stones per plant." "Elder, isn't that unfair?" Hearing the old man's reply, Lu Xian retracted his hand that was reaching forward with the jade box. "According to my understanding, many spirit firegrass plants grown by spiritual plant cultivators in the northern district have suffered from pests recently, resulting in lower yields than usual. The news has spread throughout the market. The Wang family in the central region is preparing to explore a new secret realm, causing a significant increase in the price of healing pills. Spirit firegrass is the main material for refining healing pills. If we still follow the previous market price, it would be unfair to us honest independent cultivators. You little rascal, your cultivation level might not be high, but your nose is quite sharp." Elder, laughed and scolded, then adjusted his expression and said, 3 spiritual stones and 20 broken spiritual stones per plant, that's the final price." Lu Xian pondered for a moment, knowing that this was already a fair price. After all, the good quality spirit firegrass was only slightly better than ordinary ones, not reaching the level of top grade or perfect quality. Being able to increase the price by 30 broken spiritual stones per plant was already quite good. He handed the 9 spirit firegrass to Elder, who carefully inspected them without finding any faults. He counted the spiritual stones and handed them to Lu Xian. 6 ordinary spirit firegrass and 3 good quality spirit firegrass, a total of 29 low-grade spiritual stones and 70 broken spiritual stones were exchanged. Lu Xian carefully put them away in his waist, feeling the icy coldness of the spiritual stones through his clothes while his heart burned with excitement. Exchanging 9 spirit firegrass for a total of 29 low-grade spiritual stones and 70 broken spiritual stones, along with the 6 spiritual stones and 82 broken spiritual stones I now have a total of 36 low-grade spiritual stones and 52 broken spiritual stones. Unfortunately, I lost quite a bit due to those damn black budworm larvae, otherwise my wealth would be even more abundant." Lu Xian thought about the 6 spiritual stones and 50 broken spiritual stones he had spent on the black threads, gritting his teeth in frustration. Money brings confidence, and with such a substantial amount of spiritual stones, Lu Xian felt much more assured. Leaving by Chao Tang, Lu Xian couldn't help but worry about the lack of protection in his spiritual field. He hurriedly headed to his next destination. The market was filled with various shops, including some specialized or supplementary shops that sold spiritual seeds. He went to a shop he was familiar with. A low-level qi cultivator in his middle years was taking care of the spiritual seedlings displayed in the shop. When he saw Lu Xian enter, he stood up to greet him. "Young friend, is there anything I can help you with?" the shop owner asked. "I'd like to take a look first." Lu Xian replied, scanning the entire shop. The shop displayed various types of spiritual seeds, each with its unique form. Lu Xian didn't recognize most of them. There were also several spiritual plant seedlings in the corner displaying various peculiar phenomena, which made Lu Xian even more unfamiliar. When a spiritual plant matures, there is a certain possibility that it will produce spiritual seeds if allowed to continue growing. However, most of these spiritual seeds are not suitable for cultivating new spiritual plants. The majority of spiritual seeds require special methods to condense, and some of these methods are only known by major sects. Especially for rare and high-grade spiritual seeds, the methods of condensation are not circulated to the outside world. Even the condensation of spiritual seeds of ordinary grade requires knowledge that ordinary independent cultivators may not possess. There might be a powerful cultivator or a large clan behind this shop. "How much for a spirit firegrass seed?" Lu Xian pointed to the dried-up spirit firegrass seeds on the shelf and asked the middle-aged cultivator. 40 broken spiritual stones per seed. If you buy more than 10 at once, it's 50 broken spiritual stones each for retail. I need 20. Also please recommend a top-tier spiritual plant seedling or seed. To me it would be best if it has low requirements for spiritual energy in simple growth conditions. The small piece of spiritual field in his courtyard previously had 24 spirit firegrass plants. However, Lu Xian didn't plan to buy the same quantity of seeds this time. Spirit firegrass and moon eroding trees were both ungraded, with the moon eroding tree being more valuable, but it still didn't reach the top tier level. The appearance of white light orbs in the spiritual field had increased the importance of the field. Lu Xian was afraid that cultivators or monsters might sneak in and harm the spiritual plants, affecting the richness of the white light orbs. He excluded the moon eroding tree from consideration. Joking aside, he was barely able to meet his basic needs now. There were days when he couldn't even get a piece of monster meat to eat. If he were to cultivate the moon eroding tree, what would he use to feed it? Could he cut himself and feed it his own flesh? As for the red cloud pine, he currently had the fireball spell, and there were more than 10 spirit firegrass plants and moon eroding fruits that could potentially produce fire-based spells. It was not a problem to supply it with a small amount of fire-based spiritual energy. What do you think of these two? They are both top-tier spiritual plants. One is the bloodthirsty vine seed, which requires a certain amount of essence from a beast or monster's blood and flesh to nurture. When matured, it can be directly consumed to enhance a cultivator's blood and chi or assist in practicing certain special techniques. The other is the crimson cloud pine seedling. Occasionally it requires fire-based spiritual energy during cultivation. The mature crimson cloud pine bears rich spiritual energy in its fruits, which have a unique and delightful taste and are highly sought after by female cultivators. The higher the grade of the spiritual plant, the more demanding the growth environment and conditions. Various factors such as spiritual energy, spiritual soil, and spiritual springs played a role. Cultivating these two top-tier spiritual plants was relatively simple. Lu Xian immediately ruled out the bloodthirsty vine. Joking aside, he was barely able to meet his basic needs now. Even if he were to cultivate the bloodthirsty vine, how would he feed it? As for the crimson cloud pine, he currently had the fireball spell, and there were more than 10 spirit firegrass plants and moon eroding fruits that could potentially produce fire-based spells. It was not a problem to supply it with a small amount of fire-based spiritual energy. How much for the crimson cloud pine seedling? Lu Xian pointed to a young pine tree in the corner. The pine tree was less than 2 feet tall, and its needles were as red as fire, giving the appearance of a small cluster of crimson clouds, which was how it got its name. 5 spiritual stones, the middle-aged cultivator replied. I'll take 20 spirit firegrass seeds and this crimson cloud pine seedling. 12 spiritual stones in total. How about that? Young friend, you're being quite tough with the bargaining. How about this? I'll take a loss and add 70 broken spiritual stones. Young friend, you know that it's not easy for us small independent cultivators to earn spiritual stones. I'm considering this crimson cloud pine because I feel a connection to it. If I do buy it, I'm not sure if I'll be able to cultivate it successfully. 50 broken spiritual stones, and I can't go any higher. Deal. The middle-aged cultivator shook his head and laughed bitterly. He handed 20 spirit firegrass seeds to Lu Xian, helped pack the crimson cloud pine seedling in a cloth bag, and instructed Lu Xian to plant it as soon as possible, as delaying too long would affect the vitality of the seedling. Lu Xian readily agreed and nodded. He looked regretful as he took out the 12 spiritual stones and 50 broken spiritual stones that were still warm in his hands. Money was money. It was not a time for building friendships. In the market, Lu Xian argued with another independent cultivator, his face flushed. Friend, this defensive formation is second-hand and there are bloodstains on it. It's an ill omen and it carries an ominous meaning. 21 spiritual stones are already a high price. The independent cultivator looked helpless. Young friend, if the formation were brand new, I would at least double the price. As for the bloodstains, they won't affect its defensive capabilities. You've dropped the price from 25 spiritual stones to 20. Is this how you negotiate? The formation itself is fine, but its origin is unknown, which makes me worry. I also don't know how long it has been used. I'm afraid it might fail when I need it. Lu Xian acted as if he wanted to buy it but expressed his concerns. This is how it is. I'll take 21 spiritual stones. In case there is any problem with the formation, you can come to the market and find me. I've been running this stall here for more than 10 years, so I still have some reputation. Alright, let's not talk about friendship. We'll stick to discussing the spiritual stones. The independent cultivator quickly refused. Lu Xian had spent nearly half an hour arguing with him, and if they were to develop a friendship, who knew how many spiritual stones it would cost to offset that. Lu Xian received the formation plate with faint red bloodstains from the stall owner, carefully tucking it into his chest. He didn't care about those bloodstains. After all, no matter how scary they were still not as terrifying as being broke. Having once avoided roadside shops to avoid bargaining, he had now developed a skill in haggling that was lethal with every strike. All the spiritual stones gained from the 9 spirit firegrass have been spent, and I've even used up my original savings. But the harvest is quite substantial: 20 spirit firegrass seeds and 1 crimson cloud pine seedling. Most importantly, I finally obtained the defensive formation I've been longing for. Lu Xian thought as he pinched his chest, which had become shriveled once again.